Hello. We are back. It is Goalie Interference. It is episode 2, and the one and only Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff is here. What's up, buddy?
Man, I'm living. It's been a pretty busy day in my household, actually. I feel like I get up every morning with the kids and you just end up pouring through video nonstop, which is actually awesome. I'm so happy that hockey's back and we can do
What
that.
video you
I
watching?
do wish, hockey.
Just
I like
random hockey.
hockey.
You just put on random hockey. There's no plan. It's just whatever.
The way it works for me is I actually spend the mornings usually kind of recapping games that I've focused in on. I usually pick like 2 or 3 and I go through all the highlights and the condensed game. And especially when we know that there was a VGK game the night before, I'll go back through the highlights once again, even though I saw them the first time, and try to pick up on what's happened because I know that we're going to be talking. And here we are. And we have plenty to talk about today.
You're like a real life professional over there. I'm very impressed because, to be honest, I'm far from professional. Like, there's nothing about me that's professional in any way, nor has there ever been, nor will there ever be. And Jason, who's waiting on the bench right now, we'll pop him up in a little bit. Might even be worse than me when it comes to professional. The only thing Jason has on me is the hair. His hair is like legit professional. I don't have any, so I don't really have anything going for me. But whatever, we're here.
He's got flowing locks. We all aspire to have that. I'm very jealous of that. I mean, my hair it grows out. It doesn't grow down. It grows out. I got to tell you, like when I walked in to get my hair cut in Vegas, I'm lucky I found a stylist who knew what she was doing because, man, my hair is an absolute mop, and I was very concerned with my on-air appearance. I needed to be fixed.
I don't follow any of this conversation. I don't even know what you're talking about.
You're not wearing makeup right now, Ken?
Oh, I mean, well, obviously the start.
We both have concealer on. We have concealer on at the minimum.
This is my stylist right here.
Well, aren't you a cutie? Hello.
Yeah, that's little Wigliffe. So, all right, let's get into this. It's been an eventful, 8 days since we did episode 1. The Golden Knights were coming off a win in that game. Just about to get their butts kicked in LA was the next night before we did that. So they've lost twice, and more importantly, they've actually lost twice off the ice as well. Mark Stone, we don't know exactly how long. Can you decipher date somewhere between day to day and week to week? Do you have any clue what that means?
Yeah, that means he's gone for a month. Are we kidding ourselves?
What is that? What is the day to day half?
I honestly, I don't know. I threw out a month because I don't know better. It's purposely vague. It's purposely ambiguous. I can't for the life of me understand why we do this to ourselves, where it doesn't matter if the opponents know when a guy's coming back or what he has. I've played the game, man. Nobody goes out there and hacks a guy's finger because he had a broken hand. Like, it doesn't happen. You're not getting any advantage. You're trying to protect your players. That's why. And the players, we don't care. Like, we're okay. You broke your leg, you're out 6 weeks. Like, I'm just throwing an example out, but it's like, you kind of, what the timetable is. And I think actually at times that this is a huge disservice to the players themselves by not telling the public what's wrong. And I'm going to give you a great example of this. When Robin Leonard was hurt last year and it turned into, we didn't know what was going on. Finally, we learned concussion and, he sat on stage and said, yeah, I had a concussion. That's what it was. How are we supposed to know? Because what happened? Everybody out there went, oh, he's having mental health problems again. And it was wrong. And it was totally wrong.
Yep.
And it put him in a bad spot. And I don't like that. I like the players being in charge of of whatever's going wrong, being public if they want it to be. But I wasn't in the room. I don't know the discussions between the team and Robin. Maybe he didn't want it out there at the time. I don't know the answer to that. But in my eyes, when I look at those types of scenarios, I think it's better to be transparent. I think it makes things easier on the player and it takes away excuses because people are always looking for some excuse for a player. And a lot of times it's really just not there.
Well, I think it's pretty clear with this organization throughout this is season 5. They've never been fairly upfront with injuries at all. Eric Halla was day to day for about 5 days, and he had basically been out for the year, and it was very clear. It certainly is not a situation where they're asking the players and some are saying it's okay and some are saying they're not. It's pretty clearly a organizational directive. It really has not changed between 2 coaches. They've switched the front-facing GM. It hasn't changed with that.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear as far as we know. Luckily, we know people, as it turns out. We've been doing this for 6 years. Jason and I have a few sources up our sleeve.
You guys do.
So we know that Max Pacioretty broke his leg or his foot. It's a fractured left foot. 6 weeks is the plan. That seems a little bit on the optimistic side. I think skating in 4 or so, playing in 6 seems a little bit on the optimistic, but where they're at that point wouldn't shock me if they're willing to kind of go a little bit quicker on that. The original note that we had, and this is from sources we trust, was that Mark Stone's injury was actually supposedly worse than Max's. So then for them to come out and say it's somewhere in between day to day and week to week, that was a bit of a surprise to us because that kind of flew in the face of what we had heard before. Again, I don't necessarily know where it is. Either way, what we do know is they're going to be without these two at least for the rest of, I would say, at the very least, the rest of October. If Mark goes on that trip at the beginning of November, I think that would be a huge win for the Golden Knights. Right now, I mean, you watch the last period of the LA game and then last night's game, quite frankly, they do not look like a legitimate, they don't even look all that talented, to be completely honest. And last night's game, it felt like, yes, they're hanging in there, but they were drowning for a majority of that game. And I feel like they're lucky that it was only 2-1 as late as it was, and they notched the empty netter.
If Robin Lehner hadn't played like he did in the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game, that was the best hockey he's played in quite some time. I thought he was phenomenal for the Golden Knights. And usually, to me, Robin had kind of been chasing the game a bit. He'd ended up outside of his crease on occasion, wasn't rotating. Man, last night it's like he looked at video and went, all right, I can see what I've been slacking a little bit on in my game and I can improve. And he went, that's what I need to do. And I'm telling you, those first couple saves that he made on the penalty kill, combination saves. His feet were set before the shot came. First save, kicks over for a rebound, gets square on the second save, presents that big body, that big upright torso. He's putting rebounds where he wanted to. All of the things for him, great signs. And he held them in. And I do agree with you, Ken, that the Golden Knights were in the game last. I mean, it was a 2-1 game.
Yeah, they were waiting for
moments. Yeah, and there were moments that you went, okay, they're getting some momentum. It's coming. Well, it wasn't coming because they only have one line right now.
Right.
They have the misfit line, and that is it. And this is not to say that there isn't talent throughout the lineup, but there's no familiarity whatsoever. You're just throwing bingo balls out right now, hoping it sticks. And you're hoping Nick Waugh is going to score 20 goals in the NHL, and that's never going to happen. And that's a guy that I love as a fourth line center, but he's a centerman.
Yep.
I played against him in the American League. I've watched him the last 2 years in the National Hockey League. Nick Waugh performs when he's at center. He's a good fourth line center. He's a capable third line center. But on the wing, nothing happens.
Offensively. Defensively, he's decent no matter where.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
he's a hard worker
and do the right thing. But you're right. Offensively, there's no driving ability when he's not playing center. And I think he has to play with a fast player.
He does. He doesn't have that much speed, but he's smart. Last season though, first half of the year, I ran numbers that we never showed on AT&T. Nick Waugh missed the net at a monumental rate to start the year last year. I mean, he'd get 2-on-1s and it'd be off the glass. You could bank on it. And then the second half of the year is when his offense picked up. He started to finally hit the net. He got some confidence. But there was just too many passengers. And I don't necessarily mean in terms of their actual output with their feet. I felt like the Golden Knights were skating, but their
effort was there. Yeah.
The effort was there, but the mental mistakes
and
just the lack of finish. And, I think about a guy like Nolan Patrick, who's a reclamation project. That's what he is right now at this stage of his career. He was almost non-existent last night from somebody who's going to play minutes.
At all, period. We talked about this on our podcast a little before. Is there a skill you look at Nolan Patrick and you say that's the thing that he's going to bring? I felt like at least with Cody Glass, it's if they get a power play, he's going to bring something there. Well, I haven't seen it with this guy.
I saw it because when I was teammates with him, he played some sick games with the Flyers. And ever since he dealt with the injury problems, it hasn't been the same.
Yeah.
And man, if you could get the Nolan Patrick that I played with, I think he can play second line center in this league, no problem. I
How did he
really
look
believe that.
different? How did he look different there than
He
he
was
did here?
everything processed at a faster rate. Everything was streamlined. He'd get the puck on his stick, he'd be headed to the net. And if he wasn't headed to the net, he'd make smart decisions with it and he could distribute pretty well. I wouldn't call him an elite playmaker, but man, there were times where he'd come at me in practice and I'm just like, man, this guy's got some hands. And I just haven't seen that. I don't know why he's not processing at the same speed. I do think there's still potential there. There really is. But the problem is that when you get into a scenario when a team needs to win games and when there's pressure, you're not going to get to grow into that as much, you know? And I mean, we touched on it a little bit, like, yeah, Chandler Stevenson is, I love Chandler Stevenson,
Yep.
especially the magic that he has with Stone and Pacioretty. But Stevenson doesn't drive the offensive aspect with the puck on his stick with that line. He drives it with his speed. And right now, he's kind of lost in the shuffle. I don't see where it's working. It's the misfit line that's doing everything offensively.
Well,
They were the dangerous line.
go through all other 9. There's not another driver of offense. And
No.
there was a mention of this in the announcement press conference when they got Evgeny Dodonov. They called him, and this was McCrimmon called him an engine of a line. And I don't know that I've ever seen that. I've always felt like he's been a guy that if he's distributed the puck in the right place, he can get some things done. And he actually has a lot better vision than what I thought. He's a little bit faster than what I remember from watching him a little bit in Florida. I didn't watch a ton of him in Ottawa, but he's really not going to drive offense. And he's certainly not going to drive offense if you put him with Keegan Kolazar or Nick Waugh or even like a Peyton Krebs. I just don't see who is supposed to drive this offense, which leads me to a point I want to get in. I think you have to break the misfits up.
I wouldn't take it off the table at this point. And I don't want to be too fatalistic here because we are 3 games into the season. But man, there's some big time bodies out of the lineup for the Golden Knights.
I'm getting worse.
And I think, and Alec Martinez, if he's out for any time frame, I'm very concerned. He's a heartbeat back there. Like, that's a guy that everybody in that room looks to for leadership, for on and off the ice. But I mean, like, the way he plays sets the tone. And his offensive skills and instincts are a lot better than people realize. Like, whether it's Pietrangelo or Theodore that's paired up with Martinez, whichever one's paired up with Martinez is going to be the best defenseman that night. And it's been Pietrangelo lately. But Theodore's game took off playing with Martinez. So I just think that the misfit line, the fear is that if you break them up, now what do? You don't have because they are playing so well together. It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things. And I think that there's a leash here. I think you've probably got another game or 2 of seeing the misfits. And if this doesn't improve, if they can't score, because again, they were in the game. That was a winnable game against St. Louis. It was a track meet. It was up and down the ice. But if they can't score, they're going to have to start throwing spaghetti at the wall. And that's when I want to see Dodonov go with, whether he's going with Carlson down the middle, whoever it is, I'd like to see that. And I don't think that Pete DeBoer is hesitant to do that if necessary. It could happen. I mean, we saw Will Carlson go up between Stone and Pacioretty for a while a couple of years ago. But boy, there's depth problems right now. There really is. And this was my fear even last season in playoffs. Pacioretty's out for most of those games against the Minnesota Wild. Suddenly he comes in game 7 and they win. This is a very different team without either Mark Stone or Max Pacioretty in the lineup.
Well, they're also missing Alex Tuck. They're missing Matthias Janmark in that game. The couple of games before, it's Nick Waugh, it's Will Carrier.
You can't even think about Tuck right now, though. That's the thing.
Right. And then nor should you. But, I mean, I guess – I think what happens is a lot of times when we start talking about depth and we start talking about there being a lack of depth, you immediately want to just shove it on the front office and say, well, what the hell have you guys been doing if this is how – this is not a team that is lacking of depth. They are when you take out 4 top 6 forwards or whatever it happens to be. I don't necessarily – it's probably 4 top 9 forwards. It's probably a better way to put it. But, like, to me – It's more so the style of game that ended up being in. Their focus throughout 5 days of being off, understanding that they're without the 2 players. We're going to be without 2/3 of our top line and all of our offensive driving players. Every single guy said defensive efficiency. We have to be defensively efficient. We're going to try to play this game at a low score. And then what do you see? 20 high danger chances in 15 minutes. So basically, like, it was not good. And the problem is that has been an issue all through preseason, all through the Seattle game, all through the LA game. Like, at some point, they're going to have to lock down. And then once they do that, how is the offense coming? Like, you've got a double-edged sword here, and I don't know which way they should lean.
I think that I will say this, with a team like the Golden Knights that has had success in the last several years, and knowing there's still players in there that have done it, I do think if they can go out tomorrow night and win, it's going to really help the whole morale of the team, and maybe it helps, but they won't do it without playing defense. Straight up. You can't.
Especially against Edmonton.
I mean, that's how Pete DeBoer got fired in San Jose. They couldn't play defense. I mean, they also had Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns that weren't playing at their normal rate, but like, that team didn't get it done. And I remember sitting here last week and talking about, are we really going to double down on trying to get more rush chances? And that's going to be the answer. Is that really it? Well, when you've got players blowing the zone and your defense are leading the charge up the ice, and Alex Pietrangelo throws a blind pass through the middle while two teammates are going for a change, and everybody's caught with their pants down, you just look at that and you go, we can't do this. And that's your Stanley Cup winner. That's one of the best defensemen in the game. And that's who you look to not make those mistakes in that type of situation.
But he has to. He's standing there saying, if I don't make this play, if I don't lead this rush, we're in big trouble. And then Theodore just exits the zone and I'm changing now.
Here's the thing. You have to understand when you're on the ice and where you are in your shift. And when you're tired and when your teammates are trying to get off, sometimes making those split-second decisions to chuck one through the middle when you've been out there for 35 seconds, the unintended consequences when you're not across that red line are too great.
Yep.
And he also was out there with Peyton Krebs. And he was out there with young players that are still learning this game. And, Krebs he's starting to follow up and go the same direction up the ice. Well, guess what? When you see Pietrangelo go, man, you might want to hang back a little bit and cover that space that's now opened up. Somebody has to. So it's an awareness thing. And we're picking on one incident. All right. I mean, Alex Pietrangelo is going to make way more good plays than bads like that this year, but it looks terrible. And that was the ball game.
But that's the one incident that ended up in the back of the goal, because that's the one incident that Robin Lehner is not going to be able to save. There's 15 other incidents. Like, I watched back just the first period. I actually have it here on my phone. I counted 10 different times they gave up really dangerous chances. And then I was kind of going back like, all right, let's see who's at fault here, or who could potentially be at fault. I came up with 9 different players on the 10 things. So it's not like every time Peyton Krebs is out there, there's a problem, or whatever it happens to be. But it was puck watching, it's poor skating, it's poor angles, it's over aggressiveness. It's a lot of that. Like, I do agree with DeBoer. It's like, this is early season stuff that you need to work through. But this is not a new team. They don't have a ton of new players in their lineup. Like, I know the lines are shuffled. I know they're missing 2 guys. Their defensive core is exactly the same. The goalie is the same. Like, they should not have this many problems over and over and over again. And they build their team through defense first forwards. They have 7 of them of their 12 are defense first forwards. To go 3 games in a row and then all the preseason where you're constantly allowing chances, it's unacceptable early in the season. And it's even more so when your focus should be on playing better defense.
Yeah. And you got a power play that's not working. That's a whole nother topic for a little bit later on. So, you have to play defense. You have to lock that. You just can't allow other teams to get behind your defense. And it is okay for defense to be engaged in the rush. It's okay for them to lead the rush at times, but it's got to be at the right times. And that's the awareness that to me is missing right now. And I feel as though because they're so focused on getting into the rush, everybody knows this is Pete DeBoer's system. We're going. That mentally can cloud you into thinking no matter what you're going, and you start to lose track of, again, where you are in your shift, who's on the ice, what the situation is, because it starts to be, go, go, go. And I still believe, though, that this team is plenty capable at this point. They're 1-2. All right. Sure. St. Louis is good. LA, by the way, LA is better than people realize. But you can't rely on your rush like Vegas is doing, because everybody knows now. Clog the middle, take away Vegas's rush. St. Louis, I can't believe how many chances they gave to Vegas. They gave away a lot of chances to Vegas.
Yep.
And St. Louis should be smarter than that. That's a team that's played the Golden Knights so many times. And I thought Jordan Binnington played well too. I thought it was a great goalie. It was a great goalie game.
Sure.
I'm sitting there going, this is awesome. And the funny part is I know scouts that were there. I know coaches that were there that were upstairs, and they were just raving about how awesome the game was. And I'm watching it going, this is a train wreck. It's fun to watch. It's entertaining. But if you're a coach, you're going back to the room pulling your hair out because of the mental mistakes that are being made and frankly, the carelessness on the defensive side of the puck. Too much. You said it there, puck watching.
Yep.
I mean, Brandon Saad's goal. Everybody's staring at the puck. Will Carlson skates into Robin Leonard. Jonathan Marchessault's not looking anywhere that I can find. And Saad just goes right down Broadway and scores,
And they seem to do that anytime the puck's on his stick for whatever reason. They cannot keep Brendan Saad from scoring.
He's a Golden Knights killer. He is. But again, like, these things will happen throughout the course of the year. It's been too much lately right now. And you can see why they're doing stops and starts in the zone today in practice, right? Get to your spot and stop, guys. No flybys. Stop.
Well, and they do that a lot. And I think that's the part that's a little bit surprising to this point is like, this is a team that doesn't have this, like that style of game under the Gallant era, that first season, that's like, well, the Golden Knights are going to win. I mean, I remember any game that was up and down. It's like, well, Vegas wins. I don't care what the chance numbers are, if it's 20-20 or 15-15 or whatever. As long as it's close, Vegas is going to win. Since DeBoer has come in, anytime they allow a large number of high danger chances, they're probably going to lose. And that's with two elite goalies. Like, they had the Vezina winner last year. They have a guy who has a chance to do it again this year. It's just out of character for this team and what they've been doing under this coach.
Yeah. And I want to make this very clear that Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Leonard last year, especially Leonard's second half, they were very good. Okay. This wasn't just because they were on a good team. When you look at the underlying statistics of the high danger chances they faced a decent amount of them. The turnovers and the chances against tended to be catastrophic, and Fleury would come up with saves. Now, Chicago's a whole different ballgame for this year. That team's brutal defense. I mean, like, it's painful to watch. To see Flower go through what's going on in Chicago just sucks. There's no way around it. But to see what's going on in Vegas and to see them doing similar right now and the quantity, I'm telling you, man, like, Leonard was sick last night. He really, like, I don't think I need to say that to anybody that they're going to disagree with me. And as good as Binnington was, I mean, it was Leonard that stole the show and kept him in the game.
And there's a certain faction of this team fan base that may not, but I'm gonna bring Jason off the bench here. But first, I need to tell you that this show and all goalie interference episodes are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms, specializing in high stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, Golden Knights haven't been doing a lot of winning. We need more winning. When winning matters, turn to the Jimerson Law Firm. Look at that. We got Jason here. What is going on? I've been I've been trying to figure out why you've been wearing a bib down there, sitting on the
He sent over some of Mike's old makeup, so I figured I'd put it on.
You know. See, I thought you were at a chili cook-off, and you were dealing with a spicy batch. No, you were just getting made up for the show. Well, you look.
Yeah, how do I look?
Very good, very good. I mean, you got a flyaway on the left side. I would probably recommend you run a comb through it, but that's why I go for the backwards hat.
Listen, Mike, go back to your hair, Mike. I think you got some fabulous hair.
Thank you. Well, like I said, I touched on it before. Once you find a good stylist, you got to stick with it. And I've now that I live in St. Louis again, I've found a new one. And
I hate this.
It's what's so funny about this, guys, is like literally I played hockey for my whole life. I was not a fashionable person. Like, I had some suits I thought, like, okay, these are fine. They work. And and I'd go buy some jeans and a couple shirts and I'm fine. And all of a sudden I get on TV and it's like, oh God, I got to whiten my teeth. I got to have a constant beard. I got to shave every day. I need to get a haircut every 3 weeks. I need to have just sick fashionable suits, like, and bring the fire on air. And like, I never thought I'd get so bougie, dude. And here I was on air, like literally concerned about it. But people love that, man. Like, it's actually something that people would really enjoy was, what suit jacket I'd wear, what look I had. And again, like I never envisioned this for myself, and it was funny, but it was really cool. So, if you guys ever need fashion advice, I get a lot now from friends when they go to weddings, and the hot topic's pocket squares. So when you guys need pocket square advice, I'm your guy.
I'm coming to you for sure. Definitely not Ken.
I've worn a suit once in the past like 3 years, and that was once too many. I cannot.
And unfortunately, it was probably a funeral or something.
I was going to say
right?
funerals, weddings and funerals.
It was.
Well, here's my question, Mike. When you talk about fashion and you talk about hair, do the guys in the locker room pick on guys like, sorry, Ken, do they pick on guys like Ken for not having the ability to flow?
They know Chara.
They won't pick on you if you're bald. They'll pick on you if you hang on too long. And so, like, I think, like, I hate to pick on it, but it was like, there was a certain period where Ryan Getzlaf, everybody could tell, like, okay, it's going. It's like, it's time for it to go, Getz. And he got rid of it, like pretty early. But it's always funny when someone like, Kevin Shattenkirk's helmet comes off and he's kind of got the Krusty the Clown going where he's missing a patch in the back for a while. And everybody's like, whoa, keep your bucket on, dude. And it's just, guys are ruthless in the locker room, man. And most of the time, we all know what our appearance is like. We're not fooling anybody, but you'd always get somebody in the room that would have a terrible haircut, and next thing you know, oh, we're going to get them. Don't worry. We'll get the person that chopped your hair, or they got a bad part, or their hair just looks like trash. It's
Who
like,
was the most ruthless of any player you played with?
Oh, that's a great question. Some guys would really like carve when it came to fashion, and some would just carve when it came to like cleanliness. like we had one guy I played with in the minors. His name was Scott Ford. He's the assistant coach of the Milwaukee Admirals now. And Fordo was like, he was the best. He was the best captain you could ever imagine. And he would look at guys and they'd have jeans on and broken down shoes and be like, well, you just have some respect for yourself. Just get a new pair of jeans. You look like hell. And he'd unleash it on these guys. Like, I don't know. It's funny, man. Like I can remember James Wisniewski was a guy who was, man, if you weren't wearing top end designer stuff, he'd find a way to needle you on it. I mean, this is a guy that created Wizwear. It was his own line of clothes.
Got to get some.
And they were like athletic wear. And yeah, man, there's some guys, but that's always like in fun, like, hey, did you comb your hair with a pork chop this morning? Like, it's fun, man. You look around the room and it's like, everybody's jealous of a guy like Will Carlson, man, with those flowing locks. It's like, what can you say to him? The dude's just gorgeous with the hair and the style.
Tell him you're jealous. That's about it.
Yeah.
He's Swedish, and it's ridiculous. He's got that whole Viking look going on.
Yeah.
Jason, you wrote an article earlier this week about kind of how the Golden Knights were going to go about making up some of this offense. I think in game one without Stone and Pacioretty, the question is even stronger now than it was before we saw it. Anything jump out to you in that first game where you're like, well, I expected more here, or I expected more from this, or how did it go for you watching that one where they had 40 shots and I felt like one goal was plenty?
A little bit of the bottom six. There was no generation, there was, I think I was expecting more than what I saw. And Mike, you brought it up earlier. Nolan Patrick is this highly skilled player. I guess I was expecting too much, and that's probably unfair to him and the rest of the players because let's be honest, like you said, he's a reclamation project. Other guys that, I saw Dodonov, what you said, Ken, about him being not as slow as we thought. But then again, has he been threatening? And I haven't really seen that. My concern is, and I know you guys brought it up just a little while ago, how can you break up that misfit line? You need them to guarantee you at least a goal a night. And if you split them up, you might not get that goal.
But if you get only one, which is what it seems like, yes, they bang the crossbar, and that's another opportunity that they get those opportunities. They're gonna knock him in more often than not. But even if he slams in the second one and it's two, my concern is, like, as Pete was talking about last night, like, you have to get three. You don't have to get one. You don't have to get two. You need three. If you're going to win consistently, you need three. To me, you can't expect them to get you even two. Like, I think you're lucky if you get the one. You should get that on most nights. But to me, if you break them up, maybe you can take one of those players and start helping generate offense somewhere else. I think Marchessault is the one I would move. I don't know if it's Janmark or Dodonov or even Krebs that goes there. But to me, Marchessault is probably the one that has to come off to give yourself an opportunity to have someone else who can generate somewhere in another part of this lineup, because otherwise you're going to get your one a night, and then what?
Well, here's my question, right? Do you feel, and Mike, you can answer this, is this team built well enough or correctly enough to win 2-1? They have the goaltender for it. They have a great defense. We all know that. Can they win 2-1? I don't know. I mean, in a way, it seems like they're going to have to win those games to stay afloat.
They used to. Like, they used to grind out wins no problem like that. It used to be the point. Yeah, you get up 2-1, 3-1, they're going to win the game. You could just feel it. Right now, they don't feel it in that room. Like, I don't think the belief is there that if they're down a goal or two, that they're going to come back. I don't know if it's there. Can they do it? Yeah, but I just, man, this power play deal, guys, like, we haven't touched on it yet, really. Like, I just wrote a piece the other day for Daily Face. I'm talking about the Ottawa Senators power play. They scored in the first 3 games. They scored 4 goals in the first 3 games. Wow. Ottawa Senators. Okay.
Elite.
This is a team that was 26th in the league in power play last year. And you know how they're doing it? They're going to the net. Period. They're sending bodies to the net. And they got Chris Tierney scoring goals left and right. Tierney's a fine third-line player. He's not overly skilled, but he's surrounded by guys that are pretty nice players. Batherson, Norris, Brown. But Golden Knights have those skilled players. The difference is they're not getting to the front of the net. You look at the shot map last game, and it's all over the zone.
Yeah.
Okay, 5-on-5 everywhere. They get 4 shots on the power play. They're just not getting to the front of the net. And we've heard this for how long now, right? Teams have the book on the Golden Knights to pack the middle, keep them to the outside. At some point, you got to fight through that. You got to just get players that are willing to go to the front and get it to them. Get those pucks there. I got to score on the power play.
Personally, I was hoping, okay, we're going to not have Steve, we're going to not have Stone, we're going to not have Pacioretty here. Maybe they simplify. Maybe it's just pucks on net and crash and see what happens from there. It looked the exact same. And again, the first unit has neither of them on it. They had a unit A and a unit B, and it was really a unit F and a unit F, and it has been for a while, but they didn't change anything. They went, it's the Misfits, and then it was Martinez and Pietrangelo, and they came out and they did their thing, and there's really not much going on. Then the second unit came out. What a nightmare that was. But again, I was hoping simple, get to the net, do the simple things. They didn't do it. I'm
going to say this. I'm not going to judge the power play in any other regard moving forward than if they score or not. I don't care what it looks like. I'm at that point where I don't even care if it looks good. They haven't scored in how many games? I don't know how far it goes back, but they haven't scored yet this year on it.
Colorado.
And this is a big problem. Huge.
Yeah.
You have to score when you have the chance. And like you want to get 1 or 2 rush goals a game. Yeah. If you factor in that you're going to score a power play goal, I mean, at least every other game, you're starting to build in something there. I look at it and I listen, I never ran a power play. I can't tell you the exact answers, but I can tell you that the teams that are really strong on it, they move the puck quick. And they move the puck low to high. They get teams in motion, and then they get it to the net. And I'm just not seeing that. I'm not seeing the quick enough puck movement, players in motion to at least create the lane to get it to the net that they can crash.
When you bring in a guy like Dodonov, right? They bring in him from Ottawa. They make that move specifically to help the power play. What is it? Something they're focusing directly on him? Is there a way to just get him open, develop a system where he's just open like Ovechkin? I'm not saying he's Ovechkin's shot, but
he doesn't play that role.
He doesn't have Sasha Barkov giving him the puck. There's your answer. Right. Well, I mean, we can sit here and belabor this if we want. Sasha Barkov, that guy's he could be a top 5 player in the world, and people don't even know it. Like, I remember, like, when I played in Florida, and when I say played, when I backed up a couple games and was there in preseason, I literally don't have it on my score sheet that I played for.
Is there a jersey on your side there?
Oh, I see it. I believe there is. It's somewhere in here.
Gotta be in there.
Yeah, hey, check it out.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes, he's got it. Yes, there it is. Like, fantastic.
Yeah.
What a beautiful jersey.
Yeah.
That logo on that patch on the side is fantastic.
So I was actually on the ice when I was on the bench when Jaromir Jagr moved into second all-time in scoring. That was cool.
Wow.
That guy was good.
Yeah. So like I've actually in my career had a couple of cool things. Like between that with Yager and then even in broadcasting, being in the arena last year when Marlowe broke the Ironman. That was really cool last year. But anyway, flipping back to what we were talking about, Barkov's sick and Dodonov goes to Ottawa and nothing happens. Like, he's a reclamation project, amazingly, at this point too, because last year sucked for him. But he's a guy that's a middle of the ice player. He's on and off the stick. We're talking high to low to him in the middle off the stick. The problem is that there's really no other trigger man right now to make other teams focus on someone else. You have to have more than one option.
Yeah.
Is that the situation where you break up the misfit line? Give him William Karlsson?
Well, here's another option on that comment there, Krebs.
Mm-hmm. I would go Krebs on the PP 100%. You have nothing to lose there. This is a guy that is skilled. I would I thought 5-on-5 Krebs has struggled a little bit.
He's getting pushed off the puck.
I love his engine. I love how hard he works. I love his desire and his compete to get the puck. Right now, the routes that he's taking and the body positioning he's trying to use isn't built for pro just yet. Okay, I worked at the American League, worked at junior. I don't think he's really getting himself to the point where he's able to protect the puck well enough yet. It's going to come. But he has a level of creativity to his game and a straight line mentality when he gets the puck in the zone that I think he could give it another look. And man, I'd try anything right now, but I would, man, like, aside from, putting Laurent Brossoit in defensive gear and letting him clap one-timers from the point, that's not going to happen. But man, how many games can you go where you don't score? Like, Matthias Janmark's not going to be the answer when he comes back. You don't have Alex Tuck in front of the net. I'm looking through that lineup and just thinking,
what happens if Martinez is out?
Yeah, and well, I think Nick Hague deserves a chance to.
I agree, but Martinez is the only guy who has scored.
Yeah, and I like the look. I actually thought the second power play unit was better last year because they did have a couple of options. You could toss it to the front, or you could flank it off to the side to Martinez for the one-timer. They had two different looks. To me, that's always a key on really strong power plays, not just the quick puck movement I talked about before in players in motion. It's having two weapons. You need two players that can unleash that puck, you have to make the defense, the opposition, make a choice. Who do you want to cover? Who is less dangerous? Right now,
who is that guy?
Well, great question.
It comes down to who is that?
Right. I mean, Wild Bill's not tossing in 40 ever again in his career.
Right.
He's not going to shoot at 25%. I love Will Karlsson, value contract. Great player for the team. But that's just not who he is. I still think Marchessault is probably a guy I'd want to see the puck coming off his stick more often on a power play. I just knowing how he one times it, to me, that's a weapon that's been underutilized. It's been there at times, but yeah, there's got to be somebody. So,
Mike, have you ever seen a team that was, what's this? Hold on.
I can't pass this up. I just saw this pop up. I can't pass this up. Sorry to interrupt.
Wow. What did they think I look like?
What Jason looks like, then this was the least expected appearance. I have to imagine the expected appearance. Most people that tell me about it think you're Charlie Day from Always Sunny doing this thing.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I didn't disappoint this guy, this fine gentleman.
You did.
You've got the best hair out of the three of us by a long shot.
That's the only thing I got, Mike. So, I'm working off that. But real quick, Mike, have you ever seen a situation where a team, 5 players, make up 50% of their offense?
I'm sure I could if I look back and see that, but I don't think that's the best way to win. I mean, man, I watched the Washington Capitals the other night against the Colorado Avalanche, and the top line of the Caps did a lot of defending against McKinnon and his crew and playing against him, but the bottom lines came through as well. And I mean, Nick Dowd chucks in a goal, third, fourth line for Washington. They were solid. They were deep. And these are established players. They're third, fourth, fifth year players playing third and fourth line roles for the Capitals. And we don't see that right now with the Golden Knights. You're backfilling with younger players. Will Carrier aside. And, you're filling in with players that don't have the high expectations there. And if you're going to use money on lower six, you want to spend it wisely and you want to be able to get some secondary scoring. And, I think there was a lot of hope. Hey, like with Will Carrier, not last season, but the previous one, we're thinking, all right, Will's coming into his own here. He's getting closer to what made him a high draft pick. He could score in junior. But then last year trailed off, and there wasn't, with Tomáš Nosek out, I felt like that changed the dynamic of the fourth line. It wasn't the same for Carrier. And Ryan Reeves didn't do any, like his foot speed finally caught up to the team and just looking for hits. He wasn't out contributing offensively, but they haven't made that fourth line any better. Right now, the fourth line is whoever's healthy.
Well, but they also have not had the opportunity to have anything close to what they wanted to be their fourth line. In a perfect world, that fourth line could be Wah, Kolazar, and Janmark. Like if everyone's there, but again, that's an unrealistic thing to be expecting. I don't think they thought they were going to be this banged up this early, but the fourth line that we've seen in these first 3 games, like that's not indicative of what it's supposed to be in any way. And like, even for me, like of all of them, Lecision's probably been the best one.
I'm not surprised by Lecision in terms of like his defensive responsibility. Watching him with Henderson last year,
yeah, he's fine.
Pretty complete player,
yeah.
and smart player too.
Yeah.
Like I thought he'd be fine. When you start tossing in other players, Ronbjerg to me was, I mean, he skates well.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a good penalty killer in the American League. And at times showed a bit of offense, but it just wasn't consistent.
It's all forechecking.
So
forechecking. If he doesn't create turnovers on forechecking, there's nothing there.
Yeah. And I know we can't sit here and bag on the fourth line. You're right, because there are players out, but I'm just, even in a perfect world, last year, the fourth line wasn't doing much. And,
no.
And you're not expecting them to do a whole lot, but really, man, when the third line was blank for a while, it's like somebody's got to do it.
But I think my bigger issue is like, even if things do fall into place here and like you do get back to that point, are you actually expecting anything out of a line of Krebs, Dadonov, and Patrick? Or are we expecting anything out of Carrier or Kolazar, Janmark? Like, it seems like they have a lot of redundant players. Like in theory, Dadonov should not be redundant, but I feel like the rest of them are basically there. Howden is just not good Tomáš Nosek, which is not a great bar to be. Like that's not awesome. So like, I guess my main concern is like, they just feel like they love to get that type of player, and that type of player does not generate anything. And then when you get in this situation, you're asking, how do we get the 3 goals?
I was disappointed to see Tomáš Nosek go out the door because I thought he was one of the most undervalued players on the team.
Yep,
I agree with you.
And basically, you're dealing with a guy that you could have kept for $2.5 million.
Not even maybe.
I mean, maybe, right? And that's a guy that, tell you what, American League Finals, Calder Cup Finals, 4 years? I don't know. This was 2017.
Yeah.
Team I was playing for, Syracuse Crunch, we lost to the Grand Rapids Griffins. And Tyler Bertuzzi was the MVP of the playoffs, but I thought Tomáš Nosek was their best player. He played in all situations, killed penalties, he scored, and I didn't like playing against him, straight up.
In an elevated role?
Yeah, he was higher up the lineup.
Oh, yeah. When you're talking American League, yeah, these are guys that are going to play top line. And I felt like he was on the verge of doing that with the Golden Knights. It was finally starting to happen. He could play third line, he could move up, but man, he was so dynamic on the fourth line. He was the guy that drove a lot of the puck possession and moving it.
Yeah.
And you bring in, like, I played with Brett Houghton in Syracuse. He was on that Syracuse team. And like, Brett's a nice kid. I played with his brother too, Quentin Houghton. And I mean, Brett was a fourth line center with the New York Rangers last year, and they didn't make playoffs and they let him go. To me, he's not a guy who's in the lineup for the Golden Knights if they're healthy. So, I that's a player that I'm not sure how he takes that step. I still think Patrick has ceiling. I do. I had a feeling something's going to click with him at some point and it's going to be better, but that's a lot of hoping, and he's got to prove it. So
does that come? Will that come when Tuck returns, or
Tuck makes
are we going to have to
better.
wait? Are we going to have to wait? Basically,
Sometimes.
Tuck and Patrick could skate together. That's the thing. They can move, and Dadonov's, I guess, skating's not a big deal to me. It's fine, but it's not what's going to drive the line. Like, Peyton Krebs can skate, but I mean, Tuck's a big driver. Tuck's a first, second line player on most teams in this league. If Tuck was healthy right now, he'd be planted firmly top line and changing things. And it would also give them the availability to to move the misfits around, I think, if you had Tuck in the lineup.
Yep.
But right now, you don't have that secondary weapon to make you able to do it. Because again, that's not Stevenson, and you're just kind of filling gaps at that point.
Mike, I had a question for you.
I want to go back to your sayings, basically, that you think they don't feel it in the locker room, that you're a little concerned about if they go down a goal. Like, I guess, where do you feel like the state of the team is? Like, they're expected to win the division by 15 points. They know that they're losing the players that they lost. They know probably better the exacts on the injury front, but like, shouldn't they just be feeling like, let's just tread water here? Or do you think they're under the, expectation of like, we need to advance here. We need to keep going. We need to keep looking like we've always looked.
Oh, they're feeling it. They're feeling it. Even though
Is
3
that
games in.
organizational based? Like, is that the pressure of the organization?
I think it's partly. I mean, this is a team that expects to win the Stanley Cup. And man, they've been good ever since the team's inception. And what I look at it as is that, now your de facto leader of the team is Alex Pietrangelo, who wasn't there 2 years ago. And that's not a bad thing, but it's a different thing. And I think that these players that you're going to feel it, man. I've been in that position where you start off poorly and you just start to feel the butterflies in your stomach, and some players handle it better than others. But I think they're going to look around and go, man, we're missing Stone. We're missing Patches. We're missing Marty on the back end. Okay, we got it cut out for us. And I mean, in some instances, it can create a us versus the world mentality, but that's for the Buffalo Sabres right now, not for those big Golden Knights.
Yeah, I have not felt that. The only time I felt that in 3 years is the Colorado series, and look how they played.
Right. So,
and it was fabricated. They created that. Their own.
I mean, I sat here in Yap saying they have absolutely no chance of winning the series. I went on a podcast with Denver, and I got yelled at because I was so negative about him, and then they smoke them for 4 games in a row.
Well, they would have finished first in the division if they could have dressed more than 15 players too. So, I mean, then the narrative would have been a little bit different, even though everybody thought that Colorado was the best team and blah, blah,
Actually,
blah.
it might have been more of an uphill battle. They would have lost game 1 at home.
Colorado's I think Colorado lost to Florida tonight. I haven't checked since we got on, but
they did.
They're 1-3 right now.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a little, having the most skill doesn't always mean everything. Simple as that. But
Mike, in the locker room, right? You brought up there's some, they feel it. What about the free agents? What about Riley Smith and Braden McNabb? This season was supposed to go, like you just said, compete for the cup. And now these guys who don't have deals, they were probably expecting to play out the season, play in the playoffs, and hopefully win a cup, and then they'll work on their deal or, move on to another team. What are they thinking now? I mean, with all this questionable, situations, injuries ahead of them, are they concerned now? Is this something where in the back of their minds, they're sitting there going, I could be on the trade block?
I think you named 2 guys that probably have the least amount of worry on the team. I think Riley Smith sees the big picture to everything, and it doesn't faze him. And he's so matter-of-fact about it because he just deals in the world of reality. And Braden McNabb's in the same boat. But I do start to look at other players thinking trade deadline is a long way off. I don't think that's in the thought process right now. But I think you're even looking at guys like Marchessault thinking, man, I want to win a Stanley Cup. That's what he's thinking. They've had these deep runs and he hasn't won a cup. Will Karlsson, the same way. I haven't won a cup. I'm kind of locked in here, I think. You never know. But are we all going to get traded again now? Is that
they don't have to wait
the end game?
They do not have to wait for the deadline. Like, we've seen this team make moves. We've seen the panic moves at different times, and we've called them panic, and maybe it's a different plan. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as Jack Eichel's on the Buffalo Sabres, every single guy that doesn't have a no trade clause is at risk.
Oh yeah. I mean, and there's not many that don't. I mean, Stone and Pietrangelo are your only guys. And, both were McCrimmon signings, not McPhee signings. So, Will Karlsson was told he's supposed to win 3 Stanley Cups before this contract's up, right? So that's a high bar. I remember the article came out where, Foley said, yeah, I expect you to win I think he said 1, maybe, or 3. I can't remember, but it was like, yeah, I expect you to win Stanley Cup before this is over. And it's like,
it was at least 1, and then he wanted 2 from Pietrangelo.
yeah. So it's like, here's a guy you just signed to a sweetheart deal who wanted to stay in town, who could have gotten more on the free agent market. And now you're going to crush him with all this pressure that he has to win a Stanley Cup or he's a failure. Like, that's how the article read. And I'm just like,
that's Bill Foley.
Oh man. And
Bill Foley.
Hey, dude, it's his right. It's his right. Like, he owns the club. You can do whatever you want. But I do that type of messaging, though, is it reads as an ultimatum to the players in a lot of ways. Like, hey, you're not good enough, you're going to be gone. But I don't think that there's a whole lot of worry about being traded by anybody. You understand the reality of the game. It can happen to anybody. I think the biggest factor is, like, are we letting – I get only 3 games in here. Man, if they go out next game and blow door handles off, who knows? But if it continues to just tread water – the thought that creeps in is we're wasting an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup or multiple Stanley Cups. And that's a tough feeling for a team and for players that have been right at the edge, that realistically the Golden Knights now are kind of where Tampa Bay was and Washington was, these perennial contenders that couldn't get over the hump. And I'm not sure that they're built.
Was.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
Tampa was constantly seemingly working in the right direction, and then things kind of hit the fan on them. Washington had the demon of Pittsburgh, had the demon of New York, and there were the Golden Knights don't have those demons. Their only demons are themselves. We've run into a goalie that we just don't want to shoot the puck past for whatever reason, and then they come up with the new plan of let's be a better rush team. Like, here's another piece that is interesting from Robert on the comments here, that the building and fan base feels a little different. Do you think that takes a toll on the players? To me, like, just to explain it, being the only one of us that was in the building last night, it was noticeably emptier than ever before. Like, I will go on record saying I believe that was the emptiest meaningful game in the history of the Golden Knights when they've had a full capacity building allowed. The atmosphere was very, like, it took a lot to get people going. There would be a chant here or there, but it certainly didn't have that feel. The first goal didn't really blow the building up like it has in the past, specifically that first and second year. I didn't think the away fans were all that overwhelming, which is a positive, but especially for a team like St. Louis that does travel pretty well.
They do bring a lot. Yeah.
I do think there is something to be said about the way that things have gone down over the past 12 months, 14, whatever it happens to be, basically since January when Gallant went out and they brought in DeBoer. Like, it is not the same team. The fan base is not the same behind them. To me, it's impossible that that the players don't feel it.
There's apprehension right now from the fan base, and they can still win them back. And it's not that they're gone. There were still 17,000 people in the building last night, which some of these cities in the NHL at this point right now would be doing anything for.
To be fair, there was not
17. That was what was announced. I'm going by the announced tickets here, guys.
Like, there's 17,300 seats. There were definitely empty seats, and I would say you're probably looking at about 13 to 14,000 in that building.
Oof, you must have seen. Okay, so I saw it on TV, and I'm not going to make estimates to what it was. I just could see that the expensive seats had a lot of empty ones, and we're talking whole rows. Okay, so I couldn't see the whole building. I'm not going to make any judgment on that. But in terms of the players, I think you skate out for warmups and you look around and it's not full, and you go, oh,
"What is this?
Oh, OF!" Like, this isn't what it used to be. Even in one game, it's a wake up call. And you do start to think, like, we've had an unbelievable thing going in Vegas. I mean, the sickest place to play you could ever imagine the moment you step on that ice. Is this slowly changing for us? Like, we're going to have to win these fans back if this is really what's happening. This wasn't a case of, fans like not being able to get out. I had friends from St. Louis that were like, oh, it's just a late arriving crowd. I'm like, no, dude, that's not how it works in Vegas, man. Like, this place is 2/3 full for warmups usually. And it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
Players notice that. Now, here's the thing. You can win no matter what. So I don't think it's going to affect the way they play at all, but I do wonder how it plays into the psyche of thinking, this isn't really what we used to have, like it used to be really special here. Can that continue? And I know we're in a COVID world, man. Like some of these buildings are hardly having a hard time getting people
It matters.
in.
It matters.
Yeah. And there's other things at play. Like, is it high ticket prices? Is it because Flower's gone?
It was not the first one.
Is it because of a lack of COVID mandates?
Yeah, that's possible.
I'm serious about this. Like when you cater to the minority of people that aren't going to wear masks no matter what, there's a lot of people that just don't want to go right now.
Oh, I think COVID absolutely has a piece of it, but I also think like when in the bubble that we live in, being, doing shows like this and talking to fans on Twitter and, chatting with fans, just if we go anywhere and talk to anybody that, we constantly hear what they're feeling. And I think a lot of it, like a good majority of this fan base fell in love with the expansion team. And the expansion team, while understandably was taken apart over time and has probably been made into a better roster, they were not really given the opportunity to see it through. They had 2 chances in the playoffs, and the second one, they got robbed from them. I literally have a sign that says "not a major" above me right here. Like
blah blah. I don't buy that for a second. You gotta say it as it lies, dude.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. They ran 2 playoff. They got 2 playoffs, and whatever you believe about the second year, they didn't have an opportunity to have a third playoff run together. Different coach, massively different team. And then through there, they've basically plucked every single fan favorite off the roster.
Yes.
Like, go straight down the list. The only ones that are left are Carlson and Marchessault. And really, they've been kind of demoted to the quote-unquote second line. They literally ran them out as the second line yesterday, which I still don't understand that. But whatever. There is a feel of it being different. And to solely blame it on COVID, I think is ridiculous. Did it matter? Of course. But was it all COVID? No. Was it all ticket prices? Absolutely not. There were $19 tickets about an hour before the game yesterday. $25 tickets just below the press box. Like, these are excellent seats. It wasn't prices.
When I have a friend of mine in town who's the most diehard hockey fan I've ever met in my life, that moved to Vegas from LA and was overjoyed to have a team and a massive Golden Knights fan, 2 season tickets, he let him go this year because he feels like the team abandoned him. He doesn't feel like they're treating. This is him. Okay. This is not me talking. This is him. This is what he felt as a fan. He doesn't feel like in any way they're doing anything else. They don't care about the fans at all. They don't care about the city. They just care about winning the cup, make as much money as you can, win the cup, make as much as you can. And he doesn't feel attached any longer. And this is not a guy who tied his wagon to Marc-Andre Fleury, but he's seen every shred of loyalty go out the window in his eyes. That's what he feels. That's what he said to me. Okay. So I just want to make that distinction very clear that my friend as a fan is what he said. And I hear this all the time from people too. And we do have to acknowledge the fact that the great majority of people on social media, they're the vocal minority in some ways, but it's starting to become a bigger subset of people. Even the most diehard, even the people that I know that were just through and through, they feel uneasy right now. And I mean, Marc-Andre is the guy. I think they could have dealt with Ryan Reeves going, but Marc-Andre was it.
They dealt with Nate. It was fine.
Do the players recognize it? You said they recognize the lower crowd, less noise or whatever, but do they recognize why the fans are acting this way?
Oh, God, yeah. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes. They also just had the heartbeat of their locker room taken away.
Right.
Nobody's going to say that publicly because you know why? They do believe and support Robin Lehner, and they should because he's a hell of a goalie. But that locker room does know that they had the guy with the biggest smile, the nicest guy, the best teammate ever run out of town the year after he won a Vezina.
They got Mikael Häkkinen, though.
Okay. Yeah, and he subsequently doesn't have a contract anymore. It got canceled.
But they got him.
Yeah, they did. Okay.
His name's fun to say, Häkkinen.
Here's the thing. I've been a punchline before. I feel bad for that guy. Like here's a kid who comes over from Europe who just wants to have any chance, and he gets buried in the coast, and now he's back over there.
He's in Finland.
But yeah, he's back in Finland. But I mean, it is a cool footnote. I got traded for the Vezina winner, but that's real, man. Like you just look around and you go, "Eesh," like we got to win now. There's no mistake.
I mean, they see the jerseys. I mean, Ken, you tell me because you're there. You see them on TV as they show that picture of all the fans walking in. I mean, 60% of those jerseys are Fleury.
Yeah, it's 29,
yeah,
875, 88. Like, there's a lot of jerseys that aren't here. Like, and then to make matters worse, 57 skating around on the other team with 81, who I'm not a big 81 fan, but on the other team. But which, by the way, the train of that number is hilarious. That Marchessault and Neal came to the Golden Knights together. Marchessault wanted 18, but Neal picked 18, so Marchessault had to take 81. Disappointed that he couldn't get 18, decides to keep 81 when Neal leaves. Neal then goes and cannot get 18 because Robert Thomas, who's 21 years old, had it, and now Peyton Krebs has it for Vegas.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
it's
like
good number.
James Neal's career is wild to me.
Yeah, he's
like it's like seriously, like light it up, get a deal, fall off the earth. Like it just on like repeat.
Hey,
and
that was good. He made a lot of money.
I've played against him where that guy's taken over games.
Yes,
I mean, I've seen him take over games firsthand, and then I've seen him totally go off like flat earther off the edge. You know what I mean? Like just
he never did that here, which maybe the Golden Knights knew that was coming. But I mean, you want to talk about taking over a game? The first game in franchise history, James Neal took over.
Well, he did it for Edmonton last season too. First game in Edmonton last year, I think he scored 4 goals.
Yeah, that's right, 4 goals. That's right.
And then he had like 4 more the rest of the year or something. Wow. So who knows, man? Like,
Mike, tell me about that St. Louis team, because I'll tell you, last night, and I've been lucky enough to watch a few of their games now. I'm impressed. I mean, it seems that Parayko has really become that guy that they expected. He was injured last year, so I'll give him a break there. And then obviously Bennington had a great game, but boy, they can score. They can really generate.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. They've sped the team up. The game's gotten even faster since they won their last Stanley Cup, or their only. But they have sped up the team. They've gotten Kyrou and Thomas and put people in the lineup that can really move up and down the ice, and their defense is more mobile now. And Parayko, for a guy at his size, he can lug the puck. He's like I'm not going to call him a right-handed Victor Hedman as a direct reference, because Hedman's about as good as it gets. But those first couple strides Parayko takes and his head up, and I know people in St. Louis have always looked to him thinking like, shoot the puck, man, because he's got an absolute missile. But I think you've kind of figured out this is going to be a guy who's 25 to 35 points a year, but he carries the mail. And even their young D, I mean, Wallman, he had 2 points last year, but you watch him skate and move the puck, and I feel like they've sped up, and you can't argue that Tarasenko was pretty good last night. He looked fast. He looked confident.
He impressed Wayne Gretzky.
This is a guy that he wanted out of town. He wanted out of town because of his shoulder surgeries. And I have no clue who's to blame, if anyone's to blame, but they didn't go the way he wanted to. And in his eyes, it was the team's fault. So he wanted to be traded. Well, can they trade him now? I mean, to me, they won their Stanley Cup with Vladimir Tarasenko. And that guy makes the power play dangerous because his shot's sick. And when he's skating, he's a terror. And that's what he was last night. So I think having him back makes a difference. But just in general, they've gotten a little bit younger, faster, more mobile. And basically, they've adapted to today's NHL, which is insane because they won the Stanley Cup 3 years ago. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of how it works. And you got to replace. And obviously, without Pietrangelo there, they have expected Parayko to fill that. But they got Torrey Krug. They got Justin Falk. Falk had a terrible first year. And then Pietrangelo goes away. And last year, he steps up and he played a lot better.
By the way, this is real life right now. If you see that, the Golden Knights are in dead last.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's not good.
It's 3 games in.
I know,
I'm just going to continue to say that over and over.
We don't see that. The Golden Knights have been in last for 2 days ever.
Well, I worry about the fan base going like jumping ship, even at 500.
I don't jump ship. I just think it's mad.
I know, but this is what I'm saying here is this team has always won, period.
Yeah.
Like they have not had even a 500 team or a non-playoff team. What happens if they don't make the playoffs?
Vegas
I don't know.
always wins. The house
I don't
always
know.
wins.
And you got more things in town for competing for $1. You got the Raiders, you got the Henderson Silver Knights, you got 5 other teams that are owned by things that you could spend money on.
Because the Raiders are really doing it this year. No problems there.
Dude, I don't know anything about football. I'm just
there's
a lot going on in town.
Fired for saying basically taking every single segment of human and degrading them.
You can't do that. I tell you what,
horrible.
I just had a meeting today. I know we're going a little long, which I'm totally cool with. I love it, but because this is just fun talking, man. I'm so happy to be able to talk like unfiltered for once. But I had a meeting.
You did say OF though. You filtered yourself. You said OF instead
of
O.
Said missile at one point. What the hell's a missile?
He's got an absolute missile. Yeah. So you're going to start picking up a little bit of locker room talk as we go along here, but
Canadian talk.
And I'm American as it gets.
I know. When you said missile, what are you going to say? Process?
Process. Oh
God. Organization. You're putting U's in words that don't have them.
There were things that Detroit.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Detroit.
Yeah, I hate that.
Process and I could go up and down the list, but I had a meeting with my 8U team. My daughter plays 8U hockey, and gosh, guys, it was just like thinking about the tone that I had to use in saying, like, okay, we will not have anything racist, sexist, homophobic, any of that, and we are done. And this is 8U, and everybody went, yeah, and I was like, okay, why did I even have to mention that? And here's a guy who's coaching a team who got canned for, and it's for emails, 10 years ago, but it's like, dude, you just can't. Even 10 years ago, you shouldn't have been doing that. You really shouldn't have, man. And I don't know. It's like I'm not a cancel culture one and done guy, but
that was bad. That one was an easy one. That was an easy one.
That was a layup cancel. You know what I mean?
Like our cancel.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I do think everybody deserves a second chance. I really do, and I think that words can get tangled up an awful lot, but that was one where you looked at it and you just went, boy, he wrote his ticket out of Dodge. That's that.
Whose children are yapping in the back here?
That's my little Violet. She wants it. She heard Mike talking about women's hockey, so she wants to come in now.
Starts yelling racial slurs in the back. What happened?
My daughter has another girl on her team this year, and now in St. Louis is kind of like Vegas. There is girls hockey, but she wanted to play with the boys. She wanted to play where I played, and she's got a girl teammate that she's so pumped about, man. It's cool, man. I'm just really. It's my first year as a head coach. I got spreadsheets flying.
You calling lines out?
You know what? My main job is really just making sure the goalie gear gets on the kid who's going to play goalie.
That's a tough job.
Yeah.
Are you calling timeout to a minute 30 to go and getting the old
dude? They hit the buzzer for you at a minute 30 to change lines. I don't even have to think. I basically push them out the door. But it's actually really, really cool. Just, knowing what I accomplished in my career and playing in the National Hockey League, that's pretty amazing for kids playing 8U house league hockey to have someone that's been there and done that. And really for the parents to have somebody walk in and say, you guys got to stay calm or I'm not dealing with it. Because frankly, they'll listen to me. They may not listen to somebody else, but they'll listen to me.
It's pretty cool for us having you on this show. We're two idiots that were made a site 5 years ago, and now you're here. So we think it's pretty cool.
I just man, I'm cool that I still get to talk Vegas and watch.
Yeah, we like it. By the way, the comments are broken on Twitter. I don't know, somewhere along the line, Twitter switched from Periscope to some fake Twitter, and I don't know. So you can't comment on there. We had a couple people lined up to ask questions, but they never showed up. So I don't know where those people are. So I'm just going to throw this thing out there because we can't go a whole show without this thing. Oh, my God, that thing is fantastic. So if you have questions, put them in the comments because we could use some questions because we were going to have people pop on there like we did last week. And I was going to horribly make them sit there and stare in the camera while we answered their question for 4 minutes, which I was like, I'm going to get better at this. And then people don't show up. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in.
I got one for Mike real quick because
Yeah.
Mike made a tweet today, or maybe it was last night. Brilliant tweet. You complimented TNT for breaking the barrier. Stop being such a stiff. We know the NHL. It's suits. It's stiff. It's
Yep.
cliches. And TNT was anything but that.
They've been great.
Oh, it's been so refreshing. And I'll tell you what, I was nervous when they announced Gretzky. And not because Wayne Gretzky isn't like, I mean, he's the greatest ever. And he's one of the best guys you could ever meet. I've been lucky enough to at least say hi to him and shake his hand once. But just being in his presence has this aura about it. The best thing they did was put Biz on that stage. And by putting Biz up there, it's inherently lightened up everyone. Anson Carter's been a rock star up there. It makes you wonder what he could have done with NBCSN if they would have let him just be himself. And like for me, guys, like I think about it this way, like Biz is up there saying whatever he wants pretty much. He's got a filter on. It's not spitting chiclets. But TNT has obviously told him, like, be yourself and we're going to run with it. Like he says, we're all horned up to go out there. That means you're horny for the puck. It's a blatant sexual reference and they ran with it. You know what I mean? And they're making memes on air and it's like, this is crazy. But this is so against hockey culture. I got crushed by I got crushed by a fellow broadcaster for wanting to make the set festive for St. Patrick's Day. Okay. Like on our, and I'm, it's like, this is entertainment, guys. Like we're here to have fun. The fans want to smile. They want to have fun. It does not, just because the guys on stage are having a good time doesn't mean that the analysis is cheapened in any way. You can still treat the game with utter and complete respect and have fun and talk about it in a casual setting. And that's what I really saw from the TNT crew. And they're not afraid to take chances. Like they're letting those guys run. And they're going to make some mistakes. They're going to have things that don't work, but all power to them, man. It was fun. If anybody watched that crew last night and didn't enjoy it or didn't get a laugh out of it, something's wrong with you. Like seriously, go like sit in a box and put your suit on and a fedora and sit there and just, this is not the way hockey's supposed to be. This is the grand game. You have to respect the game. And when your 5-year-old plays hockey,
have to do with this?
I don't know. I'm going back to the 50s, right? When you had to get dressed up to get on an airplane, on an aeroplane. And I'm just thinking of like, and I've talked about this before on social media, like we're dressing up 10 and 12-year-olds in suits to go play hockey. It's like,
oh, it's ridiculous.
I think, dude, like it's a sport. It's supposed to be fun. It's a release. Like, why are we doing that to our children? Just let them play. And I think that's where I'm hoping things go more so, because players right now don't want to say anything. They don't want their personalities out there because they're afraid of it. And there's so many awesome personalities in this game. I've played with guys that you wouldn't believe how funny they were or how, crazy of an interest they may have, and you'll never find out about it. I hope we get more of that. And I think TNT has done a great job so far.
Well, we have a new player who's got called up today that has interacted with me on Twitter, and we kind of need to show this. So, Neal was signed by the Golden Knights, or by the Silver Knights, midway through last year. He came over and played a few games, and when he was signed, I naturally was asked the question, "Is he any good?" And I responded, I don't think he'll play in the NHL. He instantly tweeted back, "Sure, we'll see." And now he's here, and he might. And I'm about to look like a complete and utter asshole. Like we've been keeping this show fairly PG-13, but this does not look good for me.
How's that turd sandwich taste right now when he goes down the wing and snipes one bar down, dude?
Like so I saw this and I was, I have some sort of an ego a little bit. Who doesn't here? And I was like, oh, this kid, like, whatever, man. Like, you have no chance. You're coming into a team with 6 bona fide defensemen. They have a 7th that's standing in the way. I'm a huge fan of Zach Hayes. I thought Bischoff was probably ahead of him. I thought Korzak was probably going to be ahead of him. I'm like, who the hell does this kid think he is?
I like Hayes.
And then he walks in and dies.
Yeah. Well, and he's had he's had a very circuitous route to where he is. You look at where he's played; he's been all over. And
way to go, Vicky.
I know.
So
Vicky says it wouldn't be the first time I look like an ass. I mean, you're not wrong,
but here's the thing. But
though.
don't you love how cocksure he was? Don't you love
He's
that
awesome.
swagger?
Like, he is awesome. Like, every time he talks, he's amazing. I am highly concerned about placing him in the lineup with their issues that they have. Like, he is a forward playing defense, and he legitimately does not play defense. Like, he is so much fun to watch, but he is terrifying when the puck's in his own end. I don't know that he's the right fit at the moment. I do think it's cool that he gets called up and gets to have this practice, and I don't think he's going to play tomorrow. I don't know how long Martinez is out. If they happen to lose, like a Theodore or a Haig, maybe he finds his way in. But, like, this kid's done nothing but make me love him. And then, I'm sitting here. This thing, I'm sure, is going to be everywhere. And, like, good for him. Like, he was like, smacks me around 2 seconds into being a Golden Knight. What a
I like how it has a retweet as well.
I know.
Well,
you know what's interesting, guys? Did you notice that no players tweeted all last season during the regular
Well,
season?
one did. One did.
Ever. That's like a fairly clear Golden Knight thing. Like, you will not have a Twitter.
Yeah, but Robin Leonard does openly.
Not last season.
Yeah, no.
Not until playoffs last year. Not until he opened up about everybody being trapped. And then all of a sudden he had a chance to use it again. It's like he was unleashed. It's a very clear directive. There's no chance that the guys weren't tweeting all last year by happenstance.
What is the benefit of that? Like, are they?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like, I don't get it.
Well, if you ever play for Lou Lamoriello, that's not going to happen either. And I spent 2 years in that organization where I had to shave my face every day. And it's a control thing. And it's not wanting to leak any information. It's not wanting your players to have a personality and basically show who they are because it's going to be tabloid or locker room fodder, billboard fodder. It's just, there's teams that believe it creates an element of risk to what they're doing, and they don't like that. They don't want it to be out there.
Tiresome?
Oh yeah. And it's tiresome for players because
I
mean, not every player likes to use the medium. Okay. Like, I understand that I used it way more than anybody, but the only tweets I ever saw last year were like, if it was like a charity thing or something, right? Like, that was clearly within the realm of being okay. But any opinion, that wasn't happening.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
It's an interesting footnote. Like, if I went and looked back last year, because I remember doing a social media roundup I wanted to do to see what players were up to, and it's like, next thing you know, like, I'm trying to do like a deep dive into like wives and girlfriends' Instagrams to find anything for the players. I was like, what am I doing? This isn't going on air. Like, if I have to dig this deep, I'm just not doing this. Why are we bothering with it? So
why aren't the Instagram stories on air? I mean, I've watched a few of them. Like, they're airable.
Yeah. Well, the Insta is one that the players could still use occasionally, but Twitter was not.
They don't.
And I never asked anybody about it, but it struck me as there's no chance that there hasn't been something said here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's worth asking.
Ken asked you if it's tiresome, and I think the evidence is Max Pacioretty, not walking, but wheeling around in his cart in public. So obviously he's not too concerned of the directives or not. In fact, I think a guy like that would probably want the correct information out there. Like you said about Robin earlier.
Yapping at me. I mean, did he get yelled at for this? Like, I hope so. Don't be mean to SinBin. Don't make SinBin.
Well, what happens? They don't even keep an eye on minor leaguers. I can tell you that straight up.
Well, he's not anymore. He's a legit NHLer.
I'm telling you.
This isn't even taxi squad. No, this was real.
When that Clydesdale comes rocking down the wing and pops one off the bar and in, I hope he signs that puck and sends it to you.
I hope he does. I love the kid. Like, he's great. Listen to his interviews. He's hilarious. Like, he doesn't know how to not be honest, like, and in the most Russian honesty way. It's so great. It's blunt honesty. It's phenomenal. Like, he was asked today, basically, like, what have the coaches told you they like about your game, and what have they told you you need to work on? And he's like, no coach has told me anything that they like about my game or that they dislike about my game. I'll show you soon, man.
Oh man, you're gonna have that tweet on your tombstone someday.
He's going to be awesome. If he figures out playing defense, he's going to be an absolute blast.
Got a nice skill set. I watched him Henderson in those games that I covered last year. Saw him score. He's a pretty dynamic player, and I'm excited about his future. I am.
Yeah. You have anything else before we get out of here? Oh, I had one because the Jimerson law firm, or the one and only Jim Jimerson, he wanted to ask a question. Shout out to them for sponsoring this hour and 19-minute long show that's supposed to be an hour long. Getting bonus time down in the corner. I like their little eagle logo, by the way. He wanted to ask you if you were kind of figuring out whether Colorado did the right thing or not. What are your thoughts on Grubauer for Kemper?
This was one that I think I actually thought at the time it was the wrong play to let Grubauer go, because I thought he built up enough stock with the team and he was at a level of performance that was really, really strong. And I had questions about Kemper the last 2 seasons and really season and a half. I thought that when Kemper showed up in the desert, his first 2 years, 2.5, he was sick, lights out sick for the Coyotes. And then the last year or so, he'd kind of ridden the memory of it, kind of ridden that reputation a bit. But what I found out more is really how injured he'd been and off and on. And I kind of found out a little bit more to it, that I don't think he'd been 100%. And this year he is. And he's been strong for Colorado. I think that it's hard to really pick here because Grubauer, the guy's never been below like a 920, it seems like. Like he just hasn't. And everybody writes him off as being smoke and mirrors. And I know people say, oh, playoffs. He hasn't gotten it done in playoffs. Well, unless the goalie wins a Stanley Cup, they haven't gotten it done in playoffs. That's what it comes down to.
They said that about Marc-Andre Fleury for a long time.
Yeah, they said it
People
about,
still do.
they've said it about a lot of people. Braden Holtby included in that mix, who Philip Grubauer started over.
What are we doing? Like now I'm not going to sleep.
I'm going to say this at this point, though, that I do think that this is at minimum a wash for Colorado in goal. And I do think that Kemper has a little bit higher ceiling than Grubauer when it comes to stealing games. I think consistency for Grubauer is probably a little better. But, man, Kemper, when this guy's on, he's imposing. Big goalie that moves well. He plays structured. He's in control. I've liked what I've seen so far this year of him. I've only seen him play one entire game for Colorado, but he looked really good in it. I think it was a wash at minimum, but I think this is probably a bit of an upgrade for Colorado.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4 games before we do our next show, which means next show is again on Thursday. Hilariously enough, we picked Wednesday because there's hardly ever games on Wednesday. And then one of the first weeks, we're shifting our show to Thursday. Great planning, idiots. Okay, but there are 4 games. Edmonton and New York at home, Colorado and Dallas on the road. It's a back-to-back, Colorado and Dallas on the road. Edmonton is playing as we speak in Arizona, and they are winning 3-0. So they're going to come here off of another win. They're going to be 4-0 when they come here. Unless
we're beating Arizona, Ken. But anyway,
so a 3-goal lead in the third period. Not possible. Never happened.
The Golden Knights need a game against Arizona. That's what they need.
Well, they don't have one. So in those 4 games, I'm going to put Jason on the spot first because, the hair comment and the gentleman who's still surprised at what you look like. Next time, we're going to need you to stand up with one of those height measuring things so people can really get the full picture.
Yes, please.
So there's 8 points at play before goalie interference episode 3. How many of the 8 points do the Golden Knights get? 3. Oh, God.
1, 2, and 1. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a tough stretch here. And even DeBoer said it. This is a tough stretch.
That would mean 5 points in 8 games or 7 games. 5 point. That would be no. I'm way off. Yeah, 5 points in 7 games. That's not good. Pick the winner. I
think they'll be competitive games, but
which one do they win?
I think they beat Dallas.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I think the Islanders beat them in overtime. I think the other 2, unfortunately, are just straight up losses.
All right, Mike.
I was going to think 3 is my gut reaction, too. I don't think they beat Dallas in the back-to-back. You got Edmonton in the mix, though, and Koskinen, if he's the guy running, they got a chance in Edmonton.
He's probably playing back-to-back games, too.
Yeah. I think their best chances at Stuart Skinner, who's okay. Hasn't done anything at the NHL level. He's been okay at the American League. I think they got a chance against Edmonton. I think they got a chance against the Islanders as well. The Islanders have been
Awful.
trending the right direction. Well, they were better last game. Sorokin got back on track, but
They
they were giving up an awful lot of grade A chances the first 2 games.
lost in overtime today.
Yeah, so last time out they were pretty solid. So I think they got a good shot against Edmonton and the Islanders. I'd say 3 to 4 points.
Oof.
I don't think they beat the Stars. I don't
don't either.
I'm giving them that one. Just motivation factor. I don't know. I'm giving them that.
So we're like between us. I'm hoping 4 points. I'm thinking 2 and 2. So I've got them at maybe 6 points in 7 games. You guys have them at 5 points in 7 games. Like we're going to be next week. Could be fun. And maybe, I don't know. It's possible. It's hard to say. I don't know. But maybe another prospect who has shit on me will on Twitter.
Please.
Between now and then.
Please, can you start shitting on people just so we can get some more tweets?
That's it. Mike, thanks again.
I'm going to say that I hope it's 8 points. I truly do. I really do. So let's hope we have good things to talk about.
If it's 8 points, I'm going to dress up the set as if it's St. Patrick's Day.
I was going to say St. Patty's Day.
Okay, here's the deal. If they run 8 points, I'll do it without my shirt on the whole next episode.
Ooh. My wife
and
will
nobody,
love to see that.
But the problem is nobody wants to see that. So never mind. Sure? Let's take that off the table.
I mean, of the 3 of us, I feel like Like, do you want the balding guy who's balding despite not being old enough to be balding? The guy who barely, I don't know. I don't even know I won't even say anything inappropriate. Or a professional athlete. I don't know. Which one should we have?
You guys saw me practice. You saw me practice not long ago.
Hard to say. All I know is get out there, get after those 8-year-olds on the bench. Please Roy Kent it up every time, all over the place for them. Thanks again. We will see you next week. Thanks to everybody who joined us, and shout out to the 2 people that were supposed to join this and didn't. See ya.